CYA. Just another slogan, slang, another acronym we have to learn, LOL, BRT.
Cover your butt.
Or is it something, a tool that you can add to your working, your professional life that will help you not only CYA, but also advance in your career? CYA stands for, yes, cover your ass, or in British, cover your arse. It's actively done by an individual to protect themselves from possible subsequent criticism, legal penalties, or other repercussions, usually in a work-related or bureaucratic context. That is, you're creating a paper trail to show, to make other people responsible and to say, not my fault. Now, all of that sounds negative. And in a way, the origins of CYA is, well, a little passive-aggressive, or at least risk-averse. That is, it's a way of protecting ourselves in a climate in which we have trust issues. Ask anyone who knows me. I've got trust issues. But CYA can be a tool to actually advance your career, not just negative. Now, in bureaucratic contexts, it's become very ordinary for people just to CC everybody, everyone in every department, sharing documents. You don't even have to share attachments or things that actually are that are on your side of the problem. You can share everything and just bog everything down so that you put everything out there so that you can just react passive-aggressively and be risk-averse to such an extent that nothing ever changes. So that's CYA in a bureaucratic context, government jobs, for example. But what about in your personal and professional life? What can CYA do for you? So tap the like button and let's make you a CYA SME, subject matter expert. Hi, I'm James Callahan, and this is The Do-Over Show. And there is nothing worse than starting a new job, especially in a new field, when you don't know the acronyms, the jargon, the coded language that's used to make you an insider in that world.
Excuse me, sir. Seeing as how the VP is such a VIP, shouldn't we keep the PC on the QT? Because if it leaks to the VC, you can end up an MIA, and then we'd all be put on KP.
In addition to my life as an adjunct professor, using my PhD, teaching my subject, I've also created a career in communications and marketing and nonprofit work or fundraising. And I can tell you, in whatever context my communication and marketing skills are applied as a consultant, there's a whole new world of jargon and acronyms that insiders know that I have to learn before I start day one. Otherwise, they don't think I belong. IT, finance and banking, workforce, community development, healthcare, even in a U.S. presidential library I've done consulting for and their marketing, and all of them have their unique vocabulary, their special set of words and acronyms that they and only they use. Insider vocabulary, or terms of art if you're a classically trained attorney, are those specialty phrases that are used, shorthand, to quicken the language, the conversation, so that you don't have to say long, extended descriptions. You can just cite a 3 or 4 letter acronym. Or if you work for a 3-letter agency, are you watching my videos? All you 3-letter agencies? Probably not. People who use the insider language and acronyms really don't care about describing them to outsiders. In fact, it's a power move by them that if you know you're on the inside and they can't be bothered to even explain. In fact, they suspect that if you can easily explain acronyms to outsiders and the nature of your work and the importance of your work, that somehow you're giving away state secrets. Yes, you're giving away power. So I'm on an airport bus, traveling with the CEO and a couple vice presidents of a new work that I'm doing as a consultant. And we meet a chatty stranger on the bus who turns to us and says, "So, you're together. What organization?" Someone names the organization. "Oh, tell me about it." The CEO turns to this man, looks at me and said, "He's brand new to our team. I'll let him tackle this." Yeah, it was a test. He was that kind of CEO. Now, this organization involved in really good things, which is why I got involved in it. They did medical, healthcare, literacy, education. They did small business development and entrepreneurship all over the world. It was fantastic. But how am I going to describe that in the bus ride to this complete stranger in front of the CEO and the VPs? So I responded to the stranger and said, "Hey, we like Jesus and the way he did things," and left it at that. The man looked at me and said, "Fantastic. How about you give me your contact information and we'll follow up?" But the CEO wasn't going to have it. He wasn't happy that I left it so vague, so non-technical. And I didn't say anything virtuous about the organization. Just, hey, we like Jesus and we like the way he did things. So the CEO jumped in and gave a 3, 4, 5-minute, I lost track of the time, speech for the rest of the bus ride to this complete stranger about how they were dedicated to this work. And he talked about how efficient they were in the use of funds and how accountable they were and how they were so much different than everybody else. They were so much better than any other religious organization or anybody else who referred to the big guy upstairs. To which the stranger looked at me and said, I think I need to talk to you about this. So back to CYA, not just an acronym, it's a way of doing business. And it's a way of making sure that we're not only covered, but we can also advance our career. Now that's the part that most people don't see in CYA. That is, they look at it and they say, I have a bad boss, I have a horrible management structure, a bad culture at work, everybody's blaming everybody else, so I gotta start practicing CYA. And the basics of CYA in the workplace are simple, and that is it involves email and communication, and that is you need a paper trail. And today a paper trail is email, and that means CCing, or if you want to play the game of secrets, you BCC people. You include people in the conversation that the main recipient doesn't know about, and that's an ultimate power move. Like you might send it to somebody else in another department, just cluing them in, sharing a little secret with them. We all love a secret, and when you get a BCC, someone's telling you, hey, can I tell you a secret? And in our brain, dopamine starts to go crazy and we think of ourselves as special and insiders. And everybody likes to be included in secrets. And no, these kind of communications are not what everybody wants on their pizza for the Friday pizza party that we're getting instead of a raise this quarter. No. What goes on there is work product, schedule, expectations, deadlines, the kind of things that we mention with our direct reports or the people that we do check-ins with, so that there is accountability and we make things explicit. The goal of this practice of CYA is to make the obvious obvious. Because if you've ever been on the wrong side of that kind of conversation, you know that not everything that's obvious is obvious. And the key word here is memorialize. And I know it's a fancy technical term of art, but it means create a paper trail, a record, and share it. Be proactive. Even if you have a casual conversation, you just stopped by someone's office, or you met with them, or had a quick phone call, you write an email as a follow-up. Hey, it was good to check in with you to get an update on that deadline and the work product you expect, pages 4 through 7, whatever it is, and you write it out and you just make it a casual reminder so that you say, good to check in with you, glad we had that conversation, and I'm gonna do this work product, it's due by Friday, I'll get it to you by then, or you make that kind of promise. And by the way, making promises that you know you can keep, one of the best ways of improving your professional development within an organization. And it's the same in marketing. You make a promise, hey, I'll call you by next Wednesday. When you reach out to somebody, a customer, or somebody in your audience, and then you call them on Monday or Tuesday and you remind them, hey, I said I was gonna call you by Wednesday and it's Monday, so I'm keeping my promise. You don't actually say it, but you make it clear that I promised I would call, so I'm calling. That builds trust, confidence in you that you keep your word. Now, you do this memorializing of conversations every time you have a check-in with your boss or every time a direct report comes to you. If they don't do it to you, you do it to them. Now, as a manager, as someone who's getting direct reports, it's a little more awkward when you give, because it's more of like a to-do list. But even that will keep things clear, so that, yes, I've had people that report to me that come to someone else, like in HR works for the boss, remember, and they say, hey, Callahan said I was supposed to do this. He said I was supposed to do this, but I really never agreed to that. And then I've got an email that says, well, actually, I did tell this person that this was due by Friday, and I held them accountable to it. Oh, and in this follow-up to things, whether it's with your manager or whether it's with your direct reports, it's a good time to ask clarifying questions. Not just, are you going to do it on time, but are we clear about what you need to do this? Or what else do you need to get this done? So that you can be the person who is providing them what they need to succeed. So let's say you're in a meeting, someone wrongly accuses you of failing to keep a commitment, to do your work, to get something in on time. It's not just a joke, but it's something that implies that you're not professional, or you're not keeping to your professional agreements. Now, in that setting, if you respond right away and say, that was Bob was supposed to do that, you sound a little defensive and you're throwing Bob under the bus the same way someone's throwing you under the bus. So if you wait, and that's my normal reaction, is to say, look, let's just get this done now in the meeting and we'll figure out the details later. And then we move on. After the meeting, I write a note and I include Bob and I include the people who called me out, and I said, look, here's what was supposed to happen. We had an agreement that I was going to do X, Bob was going to do Y, and then we were going to get to Z. Look, it didn't happen, but this is important. Let's get on the same page. another phrase. Let's get on the same page and make this happen together. If you do that after the meeting, this after meeting follow-up, it gives you a chance to clarify, but as long as in the meeting you are dedicated to make the project work and you show yourself that you're the one who wants to move the project forward rather than just assign blame. And if you did make a mistake, own it. If you don't have the guts to do it in the meeting itself, do it in a follow-up email and include Bob in this. Say, you know what? You're right. I let you down and I made it difficult for Bob to do his work. That's on me. And then you move on. You move on. You don't apologize again. There's no guilt with it. And that kind of transparency and the quickness by which you respond, the timeliness of your response, will create a characterization of you that you're someone who owns your work and not just blames others for your inability to keep to a deadline. So what about the time when someone is obviously angry and they set you up and they do it in front of other people? How do you handle that? Where's the CYA in that? Well, I was in front of a large group of people at a large nonprofit, multi-departments, and I was the comms director. And I'd cut a campaign that some senior person at the organization had come up years ago, and they stood up in the Q&A time and they said, they just accused me. You cut it unilaterally. You didn't have any reason to do it. And you offended a lot of people. And now, out of respect, I said, hey, out of respect, I realize that this is important to you, and I want to give you a chance to rephrase your statement as a question. And if we can address it as a question, I'll be happy to answer it with you now. Now, if he could compose himself and turn it into a question, and by the way, he couldn't, then we had an opportunity to have a conversation. But in that moment, because I pulled the CYA and called him on being angry, I didn't have to answer the question at all, the gotcha question that was set up. That is, CYA is a normal practice of emotional maturity within the workplace, and you can use it as a tool to help diffuse situations in which you are obviously set up and you are really tempted to respond in kind. It rarely benefits you to respond in kind. Another instance of CYA, I was working for another nonprofit, a large group, and they had a program of writing, and I was creating the product, the work product, but there was a lead on the project. And this lead was, I knew he was just irresponsible, and he would make promises for other people, but not tell other people that he made the promise. And when it came into a meeting, they'd say, well, why isn't this done? He said, well, so-and-so was supposed to do it, but so-and-so never knew they were supposed to do it. As soon as I got wind of this, I started writing down everything and sending it and CCing people on the team. I was the primary creator of this copy, about a 200-page manuscript for this nonprofit. But the lead on it dragged his heels. The lead had meetings and didn't include people who were on the production team, especially me as the one who was producing the manuscript. And then people started coming to me, hey, why didn't you get that done on time? And I finally got the call from a VP and the CEO into the office, and they say, you're really dropping the ball on this. What's going on? And I said, no, I'm not. I've got emails from the last 2 months showing what I've done, and I had them all collected. I shared them with the CEO and the VP. They took 5 minutes in the meeting to read through the whole thing. It was a lot of material. The CEO looked at the VP and said, take care of this. And he looked at me and said, thank you for your work. That's how a CYA can actually CYA. So yes, most of us think CYAing is defensive and it's protective and it's working in adversarial circumstances and it reinforces the status quo and it's risk averse. But CYA can be an important part of your professional development in an organization, building up your professional reputation as you're in your field, in the work that you do, so that you can be known as someone who is accountable, transparent, reliable. So when should you start CYAing? When you see things going bad? No. By then, sometimes it's too late. You should be CYAing routinely, every day within an organization. When you start out and you do it, you'll probably get told, hey, that's not necessary. And you can respond and say, you know what? It's for my accountability. I want to be transparent. And you keep doing it. They can ignore your emails, but you've created something that keeps them accountable and keeps you accountable without having that difficult conversation. When should you start? You should start today if you're not already CYAing. It's an ordinary part of good professional transparency today. Our parents lived in a generation, or maybe grandparents, I don't know how old you are, of a need-to-know basis. They used phrases like from World War II, a loose lips sink ships, because they were always concerned that there was a spy from the enemy living amongst us and they were going to get our state secrets from them. Just watch Oppenheimer. But we live in a need to share culture at companies and in our lives. Heck, we put our avocado toast up for breakfast, what we're having for lunch, what our dog did, the cute thing that we did, how we're shopping. Isn't this funny? We share everything. We overshare. In the workplace, learning to need to share as a way of operating is part of our professional development credentials. That is, it gives us a sense that we're the ones who openly and transparently talk about expectations. There is nothing better for your professional reputation than to be that kind of person. CYA will not only protect you, it will also help you develop. So I'm sure you've got a CYA story, probably negative, but if you've got a positive one, how about you share those stories in the comments below, because we would all benefit from that. And thanks for being part of the Do-Over Show. Please, while you're down there leaving comments, could you tap the like button and ring the notifications bell and subscribe, all of it, because it really helps. I'm so glad you found me and I found you.